Hey, it is the Sporting Tribune Today, Odyssey Sports 1140 The Bet, the collab of collaborations. Joining us for the first time, Blake Harris, who covers the Dodgers for the Sporting Tribune, has his own Substack, has his Odyssey original podcast, Inside the Ravine. Blake, welcome. Third episode of the Sporting Tribune Today. How are you, my friend? As everyone in baseball is getting paid enormous amounts of money.
Everyone's getting paid enormous amounts of money in baseball, but us writers were not quite meeting that exact number. So, although I'd be loving to sign an 11-year, $300 million extension, maybe a year or two from right now, I'll be getting that kind of deal. We'll be getting it soon.
One day, those Substack numbers going to keep going up and up and up. Let's get it. Now, before we get into everything going on in free agency and with the Dodgers, my goal here on the Sporting Tribune Today is my philosophy is everyone can talk about sports. You know what I'm saying? We all know where the stats are, this, that, and the third. But I really want our listeners and people who read us and stuff to connect to us and get to know us. So before we get into everything with the Dodgers, I have a set of questions for you. Are you prepared so that we get to know you better?
Oh, I'm prepared. I'm excited to see which direction we go in. So I'm excited to see what you got.
And I do apologize. Again, I have the flu, so I don't feel like I brought the best, but we're going to make it do what it do. First question, since it is the holiday season, what's your role at a company holiday party? Are you just a part of the crowd? Are you the guy who gets way too drunk around his coworkers? Do you hang around the appetizers a little bit too much like I do? What's the game plan at the party?
That's a tough question. See, you can go a different way with this, but I like what you kind of mentioned. You got to see what the spread is. You got to see what's on the table the second you get there, because you could miss out. And all of a sudden, 30 minutes to an hour down the road, the good stuff could be gone. So first things first, you're saying hello to everyone, but you're checking to see what that table's got. You got to see what's on the menu. So I think that's number one most important. And I think number two, you got to come to impress. You got to dress to impress. So if it's an ugly sweater, you got to find the best one you can. If not, find the best kind of holiday outfit you can. But yeah, you got to see what that spread is and see what's on the menu before everyone else gets their hands on it.
Me and you, we're going to get along well. I can tell already. What's your favorite TV show of this year?
Man, I should have had an hour to prepare for this, because that's a tough one on the spot. Favorite TV show? That's tough because my girlfriend and I have been doing so much binging. We've been watching so many things. I think the best I've watched this year was it's down to two, but I think I have an answer. Number one is probably Better Call Saul. I think that's been the best show I've seen this year, but we've recently been watching The White Lotus, and that's pretty good as well. So I have that as my number two.
I'm hearing people complain about whatever's going on with that show, but it's fire though.
It's tough because it's the second season and it's very different from the first season because they're different storylines. So I could see it being a thing where if you love the first season, you might not like the second season. See, me personally, I think the second season's better than the first season, but I think it's just who you ask, I think, who kind of has different opinions, but I've really been enjoying it. But I think Better Call Saul, it might be a hot take, but I think it's better than Breaking Bad.
I will admit this right now. First and foremost, two things to admit. Number one, Jennifer Coolidge, if you're watching this, hello. How are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day.
Also, hello, Jennifer. Hello there. How are you doing?
Number two, I've never seen Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry.
See,
I've done drugs before. I've never, not those drugs, but I've never seen the show before.
Man, see, I thought you were going to say I've never seen Better Call Saul, which, okay, I could understand that. But if it actually, dude, I'm sorry. We're going to have to end this interview right now, and you're going to have to go and watch some Breaking Bad because, dude, you need to get on that. But I would say make sure you watch. I know a lot of people say because Better Call Saul's a prequel, watch that beforehand. You got to watch Breaking Bad first and then Better Call Saul, because I think it's going to make it that much better. But yeah, dude, you got to get those two on your viewing schedule soon.
I'm one of those dudes that if everyone's watching it, I feel like I don't need to because everyone else has me. But let's move forward real quick. This might be the most important one.
Okay.
Probably not, but it's just going to be one of the ones. Do you consider hot dogs a sandwich?
I don't know why. At some point, this question was actually proposed to me about a week ago. I don't remember what I said.
It won't leave you alone.
But I think I said yes. So I'm going to go with the yes, it is a sandwich. And if it is a sandwich, then if there's another question, what's your favorite sandwich? Well, there's mine, a hot dog.
Fantastic. If the rumors are true that are going around Twitter and social media today, are you in on a Rush Hour 4?
I'm in on a Rush Hour 4, but I hate to do this. I've only seen Rush Hour 3. And for some reason, it was
Really?
back in theaters. I don't know, it was like 2008, 2009, whenever it came out. I saw it in theaters for some reason. So I've never seen the first two, but I know I love the third. I love Chris Tucker. I love Jackie Chan. So if the rumors are true, I'll be seeing Rush Hour 4, but I definitely need to see the first two and then the third again before I see the fourth.
Well, it's kind of crazy. I know that was it Mindy or Cindy, the woman who was on The Office, whatever, she said like it couldn't be made today if they tried to. It's the same thing with Rush Hour 1 and 2. That movie could not be replicated today. So we'll see what happens with 4. Here we're gonna go with some random questions, but now we're gonna focus on baseball a little bit. And just to prep you coming up here, I'm gonna need a baseball hot take from you. But before we focus on your baseball hot take, I need you to judge mine. So I'm born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. So obviously I'm a Guardians fan. And I think my biggest hot take is that the fact that Jim Thome is the only person from the 90s era of Cleveland baseball to have a statue is absolutely disgusting, considering he left to Philadelphia. You could have had Omar Vizquel, Sandy Alomar, Charles Nagy, Albert Bell, Kenny Lofton. There's a ton of people to pick from the era that could have had a statue, even the drummer in the outfield. And also, a lot of people don't remember this, but back in when Jim Thome was playing, like his minor league, like the top prospect at first base under him was Richie Sexton, who Big Sexy finished with 306 career home runs for terrible Milwaukee Brewers teams. So you're telling me he couldn't replicate similar offensive output as an Indian in those protected lineups in comparison to Jim Thome? That's one of my biggest hot takes. What do you feel about that? Is that asinine?
I was blown away that you said that Tommy's the only one, just because I wasn't alive to really experience those kind of teams, but from all the baseball, that I've come to learn, those teams were just insane. And the fact that, like you said, there's only one that's really getting the recognition. I know teams are very different when it comes to statues. Some teams, they'll just build a statue for anyone, where some teams like the Dodgers, it's literally you got to be either Jackie Robinson or Sandy Koufax to do so. But yeah, I would think that there'd be more recognition for those teams because there were some studs. I also like that you brought up Richie Sexton because that's a name that I have not heard in like a decade since he was like
Big
finishing his
Sexy.
career. I think he finished his career with like the Mariners, I want to say, or he may have ended up somewhere else.
Well, I Googled it right before I wrote because I wanted to double check. I guess he did like a 3-week stint with the Yankees where he hit one grand slam and then he got cut. But yeah, no, he spent a lot of time with the Mariners and the Brewers too. But that was my hot take. Now it's time for yours.
See, that's tough because coming up with hot takes, you can have so many different kinds of ones. I'm sure there's one I could come up with. It's like something that takes place over the last 20 to 30 years, but I'll just start with mine since obviously we're going to be talking Dodgers. And this may be, well, I guess it is a hot take because it's going to be a controversial take. I don't care what happened in the past. I think the Dodgers need to sign Carlos Correa. Let what happened in 2017 happen. They need some guy that's going to unlight fire. They need some guy that has that dog in them. And that's Carlos Correa. So it's not a popular take, but a hot take is one that I say, and Carlos Correa needs to be a Dodger.
Screw the other questions. Let's go right into it. What is the latest that you're hearing on Carlos Correa? And obviously you just said you want him on the team, but what's the latest?
Yeah, so I want him on the team, and as of the last few days, there have been numerous reports where they've been linking the Dodgers, and it sounds like the Dodgers potentially want him on the team. But there was an article yesterday from Ken Rosenthal where he pretty much wrote saying, yep, the Dodgers are unwilling to sign Correa because they don't want to receive backlash from the fan base. And although I can understand that because, again, this is such a controversial player, at the end of the day, you're trying to win baseball games. You're trying to make money for your organization. And based on how the free agency is kind of panned out for the Dodgers, he's by far the best option. And I just don't think Gavin Lux is the right answer to be your shortstop moving forward. So I get it. There might be some backlash if you sign him, but if he puts up all-star caliber numbers and if the Dodgers win a World Series, I think a lot of fans are going to be on board with the Carlos Correa signing. So I'm not as confident as I was a couple days ago. I don't know if the Dodgers are just saying that to try to kind of slide under the radar, but if I were to guess, I think Correa is actually going to be a San Francisco Giant, and I think they're going to overpay for him after losing out to Aaron Judge the other day.
I do have to say, if like your reasoning is that he was on a rival team and we hate each other. Like that is so strange when like look at what Deshaun Watson got paid for and what he is dealing with, let alone like you're saying just because he was on a rival team and they cheated. Like to me, that would be kind of ridiculous. And to just kind of take a step back with the Dodgers as a whole, obviously with the winter meetings being here. Everyone and a lot of things going on with free agency. Dodgers have lost 6 players from their playoff roster, including Trey Turner. And before we continue talking about the shortstop and everything and losing pieces to San Diego, where are you at basically with the front office right now and kind of the ideas that they have in place for this season or what it looks like?
Yeah, so it seems like their master plan is essentially to stay below that luxury tax threshold, which I think now is like $233 million. I was calculated it earlier, and it looks like the Dodgers are at about 185. So they have, I think, 48 million. My Arizona State math is coming into play here. So I think that's $48 million that they have to spare. So they have $48 million to pretty much disperse between however many players they need. So I get it. I understand it. They want to get below that number because they've kind of been over it the last couple of seasons, and there's a lot of penalties that come with that. So I can't fault them for that. But the fact that we're at this point in the offseason and the winter meetings just passed, and the Dodgers' biggest moves have been for Shelby Miller and Jason Hayward, 2 players who I thought were actually retired when I got the notification saying that the Dodgers just signed them. So
that's not good.
It's not been a great offseason, but as we've seen in years past, Freddie Freeman, he was signed middle of March. The Mookie Betts trade, I think, was like in February or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to happen early on. But if you're part of Dodgers Twitter, they're out there just it's ugly now. It's as if that they're the worst team in all of baseball with the way the offseason's gone.
Well, I mean, not only that, like obviously, like I don't know how you could feel good as a Dodger when you hear all that. Like I guess you re-sign Clayton and that's cool, but
Yeah,
losing to San Diego in that rivalry, like it's in a very weird and precarious situation that Dodgers fans aren't used to. I am curious how you think this is going to play out when it comes to the bullpen. Obviously, Craig Kimbrell, not a part of the organization, is a free agent. Do you think they're moving away from having like a designated closer going into next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the plan last season initially, and then Craig Kimbrell just became available, so they decided to trade for him. But I think this season especially, we've seen the Dodgers, that's actually where they kind of thrive when they don't have that designated guy in the 9th inning. So assuming everyone's able to come back, healthy that they currently have, obviously Daniel Hudson tore his ACL last season. He's kind of a question mark to start the season. Blake Trinan might be out actually for majority of the season, so he's a question mark. But the Dodgers still have some really solid guys, and if that's the case, if they decide to move forward with no designated closer, kind of play matchup by matchup, I think that's going to be more beneficial actually for the Dodgers than having a guy that you can rely on in the 9th inning. Because as we saw last season with Craig Kimbrell, to put it kindly, it was a disaster. So maybe they just don't want to try that again. Try something new for 2023.
And, we talk about kind of the precarious situation the Dodgers fans are in, and even hearing that they're trying to slash payroll and stay under the luxury tax, like things we're not necessarily used to. I know Dave Roberts, I think the exact quote was, I don't think it's too much of a reach to say that 5 or 6 young kids, young ball players are going to have huge impacts on our ball club. From a fan standpoint, is that acceptable for a team that has such high expectations? Or should they like have faith in that the organization in the minor league is building these talents that can play at a major league level and compete and, try to win a title?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's risky because, yeah, you're asking a lot for unproven talent, but if anything, the Dodgers have proven over the last decade that they can develop talents better than almost any other team out there. I mean, you've had guys like Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, Walker Buehler, guys like this come up through the system, Julio Urias, that were, farm guys that transformed into major league superstars. And I think they're kind of expecting that for a lot of these guys that they have coming up. Obviously, they still have some veterans like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, Will Smith, guys like that. But yeah, their lineup's going to feature some rookies in 2023. And I think the beauty is the Dodgers lineup and team as it's constructed already is probably guaranteed to win at least 90 games. So, and that's with, assuming these rookies are kind of just average players. If these rookies live up to the expectations that are being set with them, I think this is a Dodgers team where all of a sudden now for the next 4 to 5 years, once again, they can kind of have that next dynasty like they just had with, again, those young guys that I just mentioned beforehand.
And speaking of the future, obviously winter meetings are going on. Earlier this week, Andrew Friedman, general manager, said, and I quote, "We've seen a lot of large market teams compete over a short period of time and then fall off a cliff." I think he does have some credence. I mean, hell, when you look at Xander signing with the Padres, I look at
Yeah.
Boston these past couple of years, and all the players they've lost and how much money they've invested in trying to win, and they have won, but it can get ugly at times, and there's another side to that. Um, the one thing that I think isn't being spoken about is I do see that the Dodgers are saving money and getting ready because there's a guy who plays very
Mhm.
close to LA and Anaheim with Ohtani. Do you think there's any truth or credence to them trying to go all in on him next season when he becomes available?
Yeah, talk about perfect timing because I literally just finished an article on that about an hour or two ago. So I
Synergy.
do. I think this is a rumor that has a lot of truth to it. We've seen numerous reporters over the last few days kind of link Ohtani to the Dodgers, and this isn't something that's entirely new. The Dodgers, they tried to get him when he was fresh out of high school. They tried to get him 5 years ago when he went to the Angels, which I still think he would have gone to the Dodgers if the National League would have had a designated hitter. But because they did, his options were kind of limited to the American League. But I think when he's a free agent next season, again, like you said, or like we're both saying, that's why the Dodgers want to get under this tax threshold because it's going to allow them to offer more money to Ohtani next year, whether that's 400 million, 450 million. Personally, I think he's the first guy to surpass 500 million in baseball because if Aaron Judge is making 40 million a season, if Jacob deGrom's making 35 million a season, well, Shohei Ohtani, who's putting up numbers almost similar to both those guys, he's doing the same thing. So what's he going to get? So yeah, I think the Dodgers, I think they're saving up, and I think they're going to write a check where essentially they're just going to keep adding zeros until Shohei says, okay, that should get me through the rest of my life.
Yeah, to say the least. And also, just for the record, if that is the plan, do whatever you want and make that happen because you have to have him. He's one of those ones. Come on,
Yeah.
once in a generation for real. Moving away from the Dodgers and going to the rivals, obviously. Padres still spending outrageous amounts of money
Yeah.
signing Xander, Juan Soto, Machado, Tatis. This lineup looks crazy, even if Tatis isn't going to be there anymore. What do you make of the Padres and in general, too, around the league with Judge staying with the Yankees and stuff, some of the moves around the league?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy last couple of days, but yeah, the Padres. And the thing is, I mean, props to them because they struck out swinging on Aaron Judge. They struck out swinging on Trey Turner, but they hit a home run with Xander Bogaerts. I do think giving him an 11-year contract might be a little too much. I'm personally not a fan of those kind of contracts, but he's still one of the better shortstops in all of baseball. And this is a Padres team that obviously made it to the NLCS last season. Now you're adding Xander Bogaerts. You're going to be getting Tatis back. I think they're well equipped to make another run in the NL. And I think the Yankees getting Judge back, I was personally surprised. I thought he was pretty much a lock to go to the Giants, especially when there was that John Heyman report saying that he's headed to the Giants. And there was about 15 minutes where we all
Well,
thought it was happening. So
Arson's
I
still a
was
free
surprised.
agent.
Oh yeah,
Arson's
Arson
still free.
Judge. Arson Judge is still out there, but I thought it was a big move by the Yankees. I mean, I think it was 9 years, $360 million.
Yeah.
So 40 million a year for a guy that's already 30 years old. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But he's one of those guys where no matter what the price is, you can't let him leave to another team. You just can't let him go, especially coming off the season he just had. And outside of that, I'm shocked with some of these moves, seeing like the Texas Rangers signing Jacob deGrom, going all in on him because they're not necessarily a team I think is going to be competing for a World Series next year. And there's just been some very sneaky signings. One that personally I absolutely love. I think you're going to love this one, and that's Josh Bell signing with the Guardians. I thought that was a sneaky, really good signing that kind of just flew under the radar. It was like a 2-year deal for I think only like 30 million, something like that.
Yeah.
I thought that's a great signing for a Guardians team that literally was one of the better teams in the American League last season, who as one of the better bats that was on the free agent market. So a lot of really good moves so far this offseason, but I thought you'd like that one as one of my personal under the
Thank
radar
you.
favorites.
Do you think it's a good move that the Dodgers didn't overpay or sign Verlander? I saw you throw some shade in an article, so I just want to get it
Yeah.
clarified.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. Had the Dodgers signed Justin Verlander, I wouldn't have been upset, but I was a little hesitant to give a 40-year-old pitcher $40 million, even though he's coming off, a Cy Young season, even though he's still one of the top pitchers in all of baseball. Giving a guy $40 million a season. I mean, we saw what happened last year with Max Scherzer. Sure, he was good when he pitched, but he missed a good chunk of the season. So again, I would have been on board with it because it's not my money. Hey, throw as much money as you want to whoever you want. But in regards to especially getting under this tax threshold, I mean, hell, just giving him the $40 million, that would have already put you right near the max. So at the end of the day, Ohtani in 2024 or Verlander in 2023, I think the choice is pretty obvious which way I go. So not too upset over losing that one.
Are you surprised that the Dodgers lost Trey Turner?
I wasn't, because for some reason it just didn't seem like he was going to be coming back. The last year he's talked about wanting to play on the East Coast, and there was just this weird, I don't know, feeling that a lot of Dodgers fans had. It just didn't seem like Trey Turner really wanted to be here. It just seemed like he was here to ride out the end of his contract and then eventually get to free agency, because even all the times when reporters would ask like, hey, you and the Dodgers long-term extension, he essentially kind of downplayed it and just said something along the lines of, yeah, I mean, if they want me back, yeah, it's something I'd consider, but it was always kind of, I prefer to go on the East Coast and something like that. I can't remember losing a player that I think was like a 5 or 6 win player, one of the better players in all of baseball, and kind of not just really feeling much. Like I was more upset that Tyler Anderson left than Trey Turner leaving. Like that
That's
just goes
wild.
to show how crazy it is. So yeah, obviously I would have loved to have him back. I'm sure the Dodgers were interested in bringing him back, but there's no way that they would have offered him 11 years for $300 million, anything like that. So at the end of the day, it sucks to lose a guy of his talent, but again, it's weird how a lot of Dodgers fans aren't really feeling a whole lot with him departing.
It is the Sporting Tribune Today. Blake Harris joining us, talking about MLB free agency, the latest on the Dodgers and the future of the Dodgers. Before we get you out of here and make sure we get you to plug everything that you got going on, I guess my final question is going to be this. For the Dodgers, as free agency continues, what's more important to you in terms of the Dodgers being successful next season, for them to shore up the outfield or for them to shore up the starting pitching rotation?
And that's another tough question because they both could use so much work. Whereas with the outfield, I mean, as of right now, it's looking like James Outman, Trace Thompson, I guess Jason Hayward. So, there are worse options out there, but they're not ideal. And then with the starting rotation, yeah, they still need at least one more guy, because I don't want to have to rely on some rookies, to fill out that 5th and final spot. But I'm going to go with a starting pitcher, just because I think they'll figure it out in the outfield. I think they're going to find someone that's going to be just fine. But as we've seen, you need starting pitching. You need starting pitching depth to have success, in the major leagues. And the Dodgers, the 4 that they have currently, there are still some question marks with them. So the only guy I'm really confident in is Julio Urias. So if there's only 1 out of 5 that you're confident in, you have some work to do. So I'm going to go with starting pitching is my number 1 priority for the rest of the offseason.
And boom, we want to say thank you so much for joining us. And before you go, let everybody know what's out there that they can read from you, where they can follow you on social media, and all the plugs.
Yeah, so social media wise, I'm only one place, and that's Twitter. I haven't posted an Instagram in like 4 or 5 years. I still use it, but I just don't believe in posting it. So you guys can find me on Twitter at Blake Harris, TBLA. You guys can find a lot of my work on Substack. I post some bonus articles there. I have like bonus features for subscribers where we have like meetups, giveaways, all that kind of fun stuff, and Zoom hangouts. But also you guys can read all my articles on the Sporting Tribune as well. So you can find me a whole lot of places. It's just whatever's easiest for you guys.
Bam, there it is. Blake Harris, our first time talking, and I know we're going to be talking here soon in the future. Thank you so much for your coverage and everything you do covering the Dodgers.
Now, one thing I should have said this though before, at the beginning of the show. What is your favorite TV show of 2022? I should have thrown it to you at the end, but I'm very interested because I'm always open for more TV suggestions. Yeah, I'm using the reverse card before we end.
One thing I do that people may or may not notice, because I'm not that important, I always have some sort of Star Wars in the background. Today it's R2-D2. Okay. So I say that to say that my number 1 TV show of the year is Andor on Disney Plus. And the good thing about that is that, like, whether you're a Star Wars head or not, there's not a Jedi in the show. It's like very realistic. It's like if you were just a regular person living in that world, and how the Empire is kind of like a police state. super, super fantastic. The whole cast, everything. It's like it might be my favorite piece of Star Wars ever. And like I'm saying,
Okay.
there's no science fiction or like no the Force or Yoda. There's none of that. It's just like a real show with like emotions and stuff. It's fantastic. So that's my number one show of the year.
Okay, I'll try because a lot of people have been hyping it up. Personally, I'm not a huge Star Wars person, but I did love The Mandalorian, so I'll get that on the schedule and tell the girlfriend that's up next for our viewing pleasure.
Perfect. And then we can start our Sporting Tribune Today sub podcast as we review
Yes.
Andor. Let's do this.
Let's
Blake,
do it.
thank you so much for joining us, man.
Hey, no worries, brother. This was a lot of fun.
Perfect. Boom. There it is. All right, Blake. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. That was awesome. Good stuff. And I'll talk to you soon, man.
Awesome, man. This was a lot of fun. Those questions at the front were the toughest part, trying to figure out. I mean, I like it. What's your move at the Christmas party? I mean, that's throwing me for a loop there.
Well, no, it was funny. It was actually the funny thing is that like I was mad because I didn't have enough time to like come up with all these. And then right before you joined, I got the company invite. So I was like, hold on, holiday party. That's a great question. So I'm glad I got it in. But yeah, no, I always try to make sure the interviews are quirky and all that stuff. And it's not all just hot takey sports stuff. So
Right.
that's what you
I
can
liked
expect
it
in the future.
I liked it. Well, this was fun, my man. And again, whenever you want to have me on, this was a blast. Let me know. And we can spend the first 15 minutes talking about stuff that isn't sports.
Perfect. All right, Blake. Thank you so much, man. Take care. Be easy.
All right, you too, brother.
Bye.